Today we are exploring 1984, a famous story about a man named Winston, who tries to stay true to himself in a world where the government controls almost everything. The country is Oceania, ruled by the party and its face, Big Brother. People are watched by telescreens, words are restricted by Newspeak, and wrong thoughts are hunted by the thought police.
The story takes place in a future version of London. The country is part of a huge supernation called Oceania. The ruling group is simply called the Party, and its leader is a mysterious figure known as Big Brother. People are watched all the time by wall screens called telescreens. These devices can show you news and also look and listen to you. Posters with the words, "Big Brother is watching you," stare from every corner. Because of this, people are afraid to say or even think anything the party would not like. That fear has a name in this world. It is called Thoughtcrime. Our main character, Winston Smith, is an ordinary worker in the outer party. He lives in a crumbling apartment building called Victory Mansions. His job is to rewrite old newspapers at the Ministry of Truth so that the party always looks perfect. If the party said the chocolate ration would go up, Winston edits old records to make it seem like that prediction really happened. If a person falls out of favor, he removes that person from the records as if they never existed at all. This is called becoming an unperson. Doing this work makes Winston understand how easily the party can change history. He hates it, but he keeps his head down to avoid being arrested. Winston secretly buys a paper diary in a poor neighborhood called the Prole District and writes his true thoughts in it. He scribbles down the date and even writes "Down with Big Brother" again and again, which is very dangerous. He notices two people at work. One is O'Brien, a powerful inner-party member who seems clever and important. Winston has a strange feeling that O'Brien understands him. The other is a dark-haired girl who wears a red sash of the Youth Anti-Sex League. Winston fears she might be spying on him.
Winston goes on with his gray daily life. He eats low-quality food, lines up for small rations, and watches the 2 Minutes Hate on the telescreen, a daily show designed to make everyone angry at the party's enemies. At lunch one day, he talks with Syme, a co-worker who is helping to create a new version of the language called Newspeak. Newspeak is designed to shrink the number of words people can use so that it becomes harder to think rebellious thoughts. Winston also visits his neighbors, the Parsons family, whose children are trained to act like little spies. Then something unexpected happens. The dark-haired girl slips Winston a note that simply says, "I love you." Her name is Julia. After several careful meetings, they escape the city crowds and meet in the countryside, away from microphones and telescreens. They kiss and begin a secret love relationship. To them, even kissing is a kind of rebellion, because the party wants to control not just words and facts, but also people's bodies and feelings. Winston and Julia later rent a small room above a junk shop in the Prole district to spend time together. The shopkeeper, Mr. Charrington, seems kind and interested in the past. The room has no telescreen, and it feels like a safe bubble where they can be themselves. A glass paperweight Winston buys becomes a little symbol of that private world.
Winston cannot stop wondering if there is a secret group fighting the party. He hopes O'Brien is part of it. One day at work, O'Brien gives Winston his address, and Winston takes it as a sign to visit. O'Brien invites them in, speaks knowledgeably, and seems to confirm that a resistance group exists. He promises Winston a copy of a banned book said to be written by Emmanuel Goldstein, the party's top enemy. This book explains how the world fell into the rule of three giant powers that are always at war, and how the party keeps people obedient through constant fear, twisting of facts, and endless hate rallies. Meanwhile, the city prepares for Hate Week, a huge festival of anger. In the middle of a mass rally, Oceania suddenly switches enemies. Without blinking, the crowd accepts the change and shouts at the new enemy as if that had always been the case. Winston then works brutal hours to fix the records so they match the news story. Exhausted, he returns to the rented room to read Goldstein's book to Julia. He begins to understand the system better, but he still does not know why the party wants power. Soon, the dream of safety ends. A voice suddenly speaks from a hidden telescreen behind a picture frame in the room. Police storm in. Mr. Charrington appears, wearing a different look, and reveals himself as a member of the Thought Police. The paperweight smashes on the floor. Julia and Winston are taken away.
Winston is locked in a bright, cold prison in the Ministry of Love. He meets other prisoners, including his neighbor Parsons, who was turned in by his own child for mumbling anti-party words in his sleep. The person in charge of Winston's interrogation is O'Brien. The man Winston once trusted is actually his enemy and has been watching him for years. O'Brien tortures Winston with machines and questions. During these sessions, O'Brien explains the party's main goal. The party does not want to make people happy or to improve society. The party wants power for its own sake. It wants to control not only actions and words, but also reality itself. If the party says 2 + 2 = 5, then that must become the truth inside your mind. Winston is starved, beaten, and broken. He looks at his thin, sick reflection and hardly recognizes himself. He tries to repeat the party's slogans and accept the false answers. O'Brien tells him that obeying is not enough. He must truly love Big Brother. To complete the process, O'Brien sends Winston to room 101, the worst place of all, where each prisoner faces his greatest fear. For Winston, that fear is rats. O'Brien brings a device of screaming rats closer and closer to Winston's face. In terror, Winston betrays Julia and begs them to torture her instead. That is the moment the party breaks his final bit of loyalty to another human being. Time passes. Winston is released back into society as a hollow man. He sits alone in the Chestnut Tree Cafe, drinks gin and does small, meaningless tasks at work. He runs into Julia on the street once. They admit they both betrayed each other. Whatever love they had is gone. The story ends with Winston staring at a poster and feeling a warm wave of love for Big Brother. The book then includes an appendix that explains how Newspeak works and why it was designed to shrink thought. The voice in the appendix uses the past tense, which hints that this world might someday change, but the ending remains uncertain.
Winston Smith begins as a quiet rebel who wants to keep the truth alive in a place that constantly erases it. His job of rewriting history shows us exactly how the party changes facts. His private diary, his hunger for real memories, and his love for Julia are attempts to protect his own mind and heart. In the end, Winston breaks under torture and becomes the kind of citizen the party wants, which shows how strong and damaging total control can be. Julia is bold, practical, and interested in freedom in everyday life. She understands how the party twists human feelings, especially by turning healthy desire into shame and by redirecting energy into angry loyalty. For Julia, breaking the rules by enjoying life is a direct way to fight back. She does not care much about long speeches or theories. She wants real food, real pleasure, and honest moments.
The party crushes her spirit too, proving that private rebellion is not enough against a system that invades the body and the mind.
O'Brien is the clever inner party figure who pretends to be a friend, but is actually the chief architect of Winston's suffering. He explains the party's philosophy with chilling clarity. The party wants power simply to have power. O'Brien's calm guidance during torture confuses Winston because it feels like kindness. This is part of the control.
O'Brien represents a brain that knows how to turn lies into the only allowed truth and how to make people thank their oppressors.
Surveillance and fear shape every moment. The telescreens and hidden microphones keep people unsure about when they are watched, which makes them police themselves. This constant pressure wears down courage and friendships. Even family bonds are damaged when children are trained to report their parents. Control of the body and control of language work together. The party orders group exercises to command people's movements and turns sex into a cold duty. At the same time, Newspeak cuts words out of the language to shrink what people can think. If you do not have a word for freedom, it becomes harder to imagine it. If close love is treated like dirt, it becomes harder to feel it. By narrowing bodies and words, the party narrows minds. Propaganda and doublethink keep the machine running. Doublethink means holding two opposite ideas at once and accepting both as true when ordered. When the enemy changes overnight, the crowd believes it has always been that way. When rations are cut, the telescreen announces a victory. When the Ministry of Truth lies, its name still sounds positive. These tricks force people to give up trusting their own senses. Once that happens, they must depend on the party to tell them what is real.
Big Brother is the face of the system. He is everywhere, yet never appears in person. People are told to love him the way they might love a family member. His image turns fear into a strange kind of comfort because it promises safety while it also demands obedience. The glass paperweight stands for Winston's dream of a small, beautiful private world. It is useless in a practical sense, which is exactly why he loves it. It represents a personal choice in a place that bans personal choice. When the paperweight shatters during the arrest, it shows how fragile that private world always was. The idea that 2 + 2 can equal 5 stands for the party's deepest victory. It shows that the party wants to decide truth itself. Winston knows that 2 + 2 equals 4, but O'Brien forces him to say and believe otherwise. When the party can rewrite even the simplest math inside a person's mind, it has total control.
1984 teaches that freedom starts with being able to say what is true and to love other people honestly. It also warns that when a powerful group controls history, language, and the body, it can bend reality and break the human spirit. Winston and Julia's defeat is sad, but the appendix's past tense voice suggests that stories like this are told so that real people can notice dangers early and choose a different path.